Hi, I'm Jim Raffle. Welcome to this episode of the Jim and Shelby Show, All Things Print Podcast. I am joined, as always, by.
Shelby Sapusik, how are you today, Jim?
I'm great. It's a Thursday or a Friday or some day of the week. I have no idea what.
I don't
Um,
know what day of the week it is either.
I am sitting at my own desk, so
I see that.
and I only know that because I can see the background. Otherwise, who knows where I'd be? And that actually kind of leads into our topic for this week.
Sort of. Yeah, we have been busy.
Well, and it's what we really want to talk about today is the differences between on-site consulting and training versus remote consulting and training, right? Is that
Right, because we've been doing a lot of both.
a lot of both? And we've had I don't want to say mixed success because honestly, all consulting and training is successful. If we've had mixed outcomes. How's that? Mixed outcomes.
Well, yes, and some of the outcomes is because a lot of people don't know what they don't know about color management, and there's a lot of variables involved. If we're trying to do something remote, for instance, we need them to have the proper software, instrumentation, and some basic color knowledge, and even how understand how their RIP works to create a profile, or do the color management settings correctly. And if they don't have that knowledge or the hardware and software that they need to complete that process, it's pretty hard for us to help them remotely.
Yeah, and so we this just this week. So let's just keep this really simple. I have had two on-sites back to back, and the first one went very well with a good outcome, not an exceptional outcome, but a good outcome. And that particular client, even that one, didn't quite understand all the questions we had asked up front. So it's not like we didn't ask the questions. Some things you literally can't fully figure out until you're sitting in front of their computer. And some of the things, there's so many rips out there now, and a rip that I thought always included color management I ran into this week. You can do a linearization, you can do a total area coverage, and then you get to the profiling page, and everything's there, but it's all grayed out except for import a profile. So I was like, ugh. Now, fortunately, I had all my tools along, right? So I was able to use I1 Profiler. I built the profile externally. I had already brought my I1 IO, which I had intended to use their profile, their software to generate the profile, but I did it in I1 Profiler. So it's just more steps. So we ended up with a new profile for them, which was the first step in a big project. And then and I felt good about it, right? I mean, we learned a few things, and we have a big project that involves many sites, some being done remote and some being done on site, in person. And then the next day, I went to another on site, and this is one where we had been assured, and I went back and I reread the emails. We had been assured that they had the option in their profiling in their RIP software to build profiles. And
Not
what
so
kind
much.
of messages yeah, I was going to say, what kind of messages did you get from me yesterday?
Right.
So, and that's when so something else happened there. We had done the research for that specific rip, and it's a Chinese rip, and we hadn't been able to find much information at all. And all of a sudden, yesterday, I found all kinds of information which we had been looking for, both of us. And so the only thing I can figure out is that that manufacturer updated their website, did something between the time we were looking a few months ago and now.
I was shocked when I saw you came up with that, and I was like, I
Uh,
spent hours
Me too.
looking for,
Me
this
too.
document, like any videos, documentation, anything, and of course, I went to their website and okay, it just magically appeared, I guess.
And that's okay because, again,
Yeah,
this is a
we have it now.
large project, lots of sites, and some of the sites have this rip, and so now we know what we didn't know, and so that happens to us too. So first of all, it gives us some empathy for the clients. And then today, you and I did joint remote training. So like
Right.
this sort of, we use a remote access piece of software called Splashtop, and then we're able to see their workstation, and they do most of the driving, but sometimes we click around just to see things. And the first one was I can't count it as anything
Right.
except a raving success. I mean,
Mhm.
and I'm not a huge fan of trying to build profiles remotely, but and we didn't. What we did was we assisted. We provided an assist to
Hmm.
someone who already understood the process, just didn't understand the importance of some of the steps. And, we always say in our color management training that more ink does not equal more color. And so that means that there is one step that's the most important step, and that's setting your primary ink restrictions. And so honestly, we didn't understand the way his rip did it either, because it's kind of a different way. It's
Yeah.
similar enough to something else we'd done that I think within about 15 or 20 minutes, you and I both figured it out.
Mhm.
And we were able to help him. I think we won't know for a few days, but we were able to help him build a better profile than he probably had when we started, right? I mean,
Mhm.
and then what happened?
Oh, well, we had another one because we had them back to back. And in this one, I just think we asked all the right questions. They didn't understand the questions. So when we said, you know, have you built a custom profile? They're like, yeah, we use a profile. And we were scratching our heads, I remember, because they said they had this particular instrument and they had three locations and one location did a good job and the other two didn't, but they were using this. We just didn't quite understand, like, how did they get there? But we thought, well, they're doing something right because I guess they just got lucky with this one location, it turns out, because they were not building custom profiles. And we get on the phone with them to do a remote online consulting session, and they've never built a custom profile before. And it was kind of one of those things where it's like, ooh, we're going to have to go back to the drawing board a little bit on this one. And because of how much, I guess, volume they do, that we're going to end up there on site because they are a high priority facility in this project. And, we just have to, I think we have to be prepared for some things like that when the
Oh,
remote sessions, especially, they don't know what they don't know. And when they say profile, they're like, oh yeah, we're using a profile. We've created a custom profile. They don't know what that means. And I didn't know that they didn't know what that means.
and this isn't the first time this kind of thing has happened to us. I'm thinking back to that site we went on where that particular the two printers and both of them were in such bad shape we couldn't even make a profile. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah. I mean,
We asked all the right
thank
questions,
goodness that one was a drive and not a flight, but it was like we walked in the door, took a look around, turned around, left because there was no point in us even trying to do anything with the printers in that condition. There was no way.
but and so the thing is, that's the nature of consulting. If they knew everything, they would not need us, right?
I know.
If they actually knew all the right answers, and and so I was frustrated about it for a little while, and I thought that's just part of the. I mean, I know, like yesterday when I was on site, they were all apologetic. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm like, this is what we do.
Yeah, this is yeah.
Calm down. I learned something today too. This is great. And they're like,
Hmm.
great. I'm like, it is. It's great. I learned something today. Any day I learn something is a great day. And so I know more about this rip. I know more about your
Hmm.
operation. When I come back, we're just going to be able to dive right in. It's fine. And so and we took the same approach with the second remote today. They were so apologetic, and it's like, don't
Oh,
worry about it.
it's not your fault. Yeah.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
nobody's fault.
Right.
We all know more, and we'll figure out the next step, right? And that's so much of consulting is exactly that. It's like there is no perfect script to going in
Right.
and helping people with color management. Yes, we have a process. We know what the plan is. And I have a lot of friends who are, military, ex-military, and it's like they're like every battle plan is perfect until you meet the opposition.
Right.
And it's
Because every situation is unique and every job is unique, every facility is unique, every printer is unique.
yeah,
Just is.
yeah.
One thing that I'm realizing too, and I guess I knew it, but I'm just realizing it more because we're doing more of it right now. There's more volume of this remote and on-site consulting together in one project. If you want to get some color management help and you are a person who I don't really want to know how you do it, I don't want to learn the process, then you really need us to come on site. You can't be that type of hands-off person and we're going to be able to help you remotely, because it just isn't going to work.
I
So,
I tend to agree within limits. I think. I'm going to be honest with you. I see an opportunity um,
Okay.
with this particular project to gain enough knowledge about some of the rips we know very little about that we could create how-to guides that would allow people, and I think what we would have to do is require people to go through the how-to guide without our help. And it might be a combination of videos and PDFs.
Hmm.
And you got to go through once by yourself with no help and send us the results, right? Because then we know you've actually done it, right? And so, like, they have to send us all the prints, all the different prints throughout the cycle, right? So the
Yeah.
whatever they are, like ink limits, linearization, total area coverage, their characterization chart, and a test print. You have to send us all of that
Hmm.
so we can look at it, know that you actually did it, and then we'll get on a call with you, like we did with the first gentleman today, right? You know the process. Now we can help you with the individual pieces that maybe you need because we'll be able to see where they maybe made a mistake or
Hmm.
not even a mistake, just where they need guidance. And so I see that potentially being a way to do this because if we're going to deal with projects of this scale, then we're going to have to come up with ways to deal with projects of this scale. So, um, yeah, I mean, it's I'm excited because there's just so much to learn. Something I
Hmm.
thought I already knew everything about, which I do when it comes to the profiling pieces. But even there, I'm in some rips I've never seen, and it's a little different. It's like, is it still the same process? Yes, it's still the same process. But I got to find out, where do we click? What are the forms?
Hmm.
What do the test sheets look like? How do you evaluate the tests? And because there's some changes, and that's good. Any day I learn something, it's a good day. So today was a good day. So
No,
yeah.
I agree. Yeah, I don't know that there is like a magic answer for whether you should do remote versus on-site. I guess you if you want to do multiple printers in a short period of time, then, and you don't want to do all the work yourself, then yeah, you need to bring us in because it'd be pretty hard to do that. We couldn't spend that amount of time remotely. The remote profiling, I think, takes longer because we're not there. And especially with some of the subjective decisions, I mean, when we were looking at some of those prints today, I mean, it's just different from being there
Oh,
on site and looking at it in a light booth. And, I mean, I'm making, I guess, educated guesses,
right.
but, no camera, no computer screen is going to allow us to assess something subjectively really well online. And, so I don't feel as comfortable with that piece of it, I guess, but it is what it is.
So the other thing I want to talk about is we're going to hopefully publish this in the next day or so, which means this should be publishing round or about Friday the 13th
Friday the 13th, yeah.
of June. And that means you still have time. You still have time to sign up for G7 Plus training with yours truly in
Hmm.
person in the Minneapolis, St. Paul area from the 24th to the 26th of June
June. Hmm.
at a company called SPSI. They're our host. And you can find information about that at, I think, ilearningplus.org, printing.org, and idealalliance.org. I think all of those will, at least somehow or another, point you to the sign up page.
If
That
you want to find it really fast, go to colorcasters.com and go to our events page. It's the first thing listed.
you could do that, what she said. Of course, this recording, she could be over here or down here, but what Shelby said.
It
Remember when we had she said he said? That was fun.
was a long time ago.
I know. So what she said.
All right.
Shelby's like, it's time to end this because Jim's getting a little punchy.
Probably time for another cup of coffee for you.
What else? There is G7 Plus training coming up. I'm going to be on the road from now until the end of time, it looks like, as I look over here at my calendar. Um,
We have UV Energize
be
coming up
energized. I knew
in
there was something else I
September.
wanted to talk.
We
Yeah.
have Printing United coming up in October. Both of those we will be speaking, Printing United a couple times. And you can find information about that on our events page too.
Yes. And if you're a 3M vinyl user, so if you're using like IJ 180 or 280 in vehicle wrap, reach out to us because there is some color training at 3M that we can get you invited to.
Yep.
That it's not a secret, but you have to be a 3M customer in order to be qualified to go. But if you are a 3M customer, um, get us your information and we'll forward it to the right people and see if you're qualified to be invited to that training. So
Yeah, and for
that's
UV Energize, if you are a UV person and you've never been to UV Energize in Nashville, it's the week of Labor Day, I think Tuesday through Thursday after Labor Day.
it
Uh,
is.
the Westin downtown Nashville, an awesome event, lots of networking, lots of education, lots of demonstration. And I found out today that there are very few spots left because they cap it at a certain amount. So if
Going
you
fast.
yeah, so I sent out a registration link today, but it's also on our events page, and I highly recommend that if you're in UV. It's a great program.
Yeah, we got a lot going on.
We do.
We got a lot going on.
Yeah,
But
2025 is going to go by very fast.
it already has. I mean,
Yes,
the year's almost half over.
this
Um,
is true.
yeah. So, all right. So, I think that's all we've got for today,
Yes.
and we will see you for our next episode.